Emmanuelle Haïm, welcome back to the Philharmonie. I have to tell you a little embarrassing story. I reserved this interview already about 3 weeks ago because I knew you were coming, and I said, I would like to have a chance to sit with Emmanuelle for 20 minutes and talk about music and Handel and everything. Because every time you come, you bring a whole wealth of knowledge and experience and style, and you bring a whole Baroque world with you. You know, you have your team, you have this lute and the theorbe and the harpsichords and the organ, and it's just fascinating for us to sit and learn from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you. We're having a great week studying a piece which actually I don't think any of us have played before. And I'd like to talk to you about it. Handel's La Resurrezione. I always think of Handel as an Englishman. That's what us English people think, of course, a German. But at this stage, when he wrote the piece, he wasn't in Germany or Britain, was he?
No, Handel went to Italy, as every young man, young composer should do at the time, to really get the perfume of good composing there. And you had to also learn Italian, and because at the time the opera was, according to which pope was reigning, so opera was forbidden, and therefore you had to write sacred pieces. And the year before, he wrote Trionfo del Tempo e del Disinganno, and then gave for the Marchese Ruspoli, wrote this Resurrezione, very theatrical oratorio, very theatrical piece, probably kind of semi-stage of what the records we have of it.
So when was this exactly? This was early in his life?
Yeah, it was in his 20s, and that was 1708 for Resurrezione.
Right. So
1707 really for the Trionfo.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, he was just writing things that you could perform. So therefore, big cantatas or even cantatas for small orchestras, such as Delirio Amoroso, or chamber music duets. So experimenting, and a lot of the music that we will find in either the Arcadian duet or cantatas, he will reuse as material for next operas. Even in Messiah, you will find tunes that were composed at that period, where his mind and his inspiration were, I think he was grabbing all Italy at once. He kind of took Pergolesi, Scarlatti, I mean, just all the influences, and ate them and made him his.
Yeah, it's interesting that listening to the music, the arias as they go by, everyone is completely contrasting and completely different. But at the same time, you can already hear the style that Handel was going to develop later on in his music. But it seems to me also, I mean, we've just done a whole run of Bach oratorios, the St. Matthew Passion and the St. John Passion. And this piece by Handel takes on where the story left off.
Absolutely.
So Jesus is in the tomb, but that's really where the similarity or the link ends, because this is no way the same. It doesn't feel like a spiritual work in the same sense. So was he writing an oratorio, or was it really he wanted to write an opera?
I think that was his way of doing it, as he always did for what will follow, in my opinion, even in Messiah, even in Theodora, even in all the sacred oratorios that we'll have after in his life, in his writing. I think his way of saying all that is always very engaged, very dramatic, very theatrical. Of course, he's not on his own, and the libretto helps that, because it's already divided into scenes, with the first one being Angelo and Lucifer, who fight in a familiar way. They almost insult each other. They quarrel in a very day-to-day way.
The three characters who obviously were friends of Jesus.
Maria Cleofe.
Yes.
Maria Maddalena.
Yeah, and
Saint John.
Giovanni. I would say that Mary Magdalena isn't really portrayed in the way that one would perhaps expect it, because she was the prostitute who then found God and became a close friend. But she's sung by a soprano. She has beautiful arias and she sings almost like a pure angel, whereas the angel character, sung by Camilla Tilling, is full of fire and almost the same energy as Lucifer, the devil. So that's a bit surprising. Does that come also from the libretto?
Yes, and also by the fact that it was all sung by men, except Maria Maddalena, who was actually sung by a woman. But right away the Pope heard about it and did forbid that. He said, "I said no woman singing in this." So she was fired and replaced the day after the show number 2. Castrato came and replaced her. And I think the music of Maddalena is extremely emotional, very travel into the worries, the hope that she goes through are very interesting through all her arias. Angel is like a flamboyant, authoritarian. Is a man. I mean, not angel is a man, but it's an angel. But still, it's a more masculine way of being. It's a higher, it's written slightly higher than Maddalena. And I think it's all flamboyant.
Yeah, very virtuoso, lots of coloratura, and also for the bass baritone, the devil.
Yes.
And the two of them, they have a bit of pantomime, don't they? It's
Yeah.
almost a bit of comedy.
Yes.
I mean, my Italian's not that great, but it seems that they're having a few jokes.
Yes, they do.
How do you think the Pope would have viewed that?
I think it was probably okay because it was correct.
Sort of Catholic as opposed to sort of the Bach, Lutheran, maybe a bit more serious. I can't imagine that happening in the St. Matthew Passion. That's what I mean.
No. But still, it was supposed to be okay because it was only men performing, so fine, so good, and we stayed the story, so we are all.
And how would it have been staged?
We have a report of how the Ruspoli place. The orchestra setting, so where they were in like on podiums and very
sort of raised up
in like a théâtre à l'antique, a bit,
theatre,
and with designs of the tapestry with dessiné like sets, des décors. And so people would come in and out, and definitely you would have the first scene between Angel and Lucifer, and then they would disappear, and then the two Marias would come, Saint John would. So I guess that was the purpose, to impress the audience by a very powerful and contrasted these designs of all the temperaments, and so he does with the choices of orchestrations for the arias. I don't think there is twice really the same orchestration, so it very much feels he is experimenting but strongly and in a very genius way. Each aria is chosen for a different orchestration. If you look at St. John's, the dove aria, where he describes the dove who would weep if she discovers the fierce ego
Yes.
will.
I know the one you mean. So it's all calm and peaceful, and then the basses and the cellos go.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that description of the
Claws,
ego.
Yeah.
But the second part of this aria is about hope, which is one of the three vertus théologiques. So speme, so hope.
Yeah.
And that is just completely never heard, really never heard. Just the theorbo, gamba, and flute for that.
Yeah. And even the very first piece that it opens with is not a grand overture.
Yeah.
It's called sonata.
Yes.
And it starts just with me on my own, and then it's quite intimate at the beginning, which you wouldn't expect for this grand piece about the resurrection. So it's full of surprises, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it does tell that this feels very alone in the night of the Saturday. So you don't know what will happen. So it's all building the hope. And I think at the end of this sonata, it's worries. We don't know yet that he will raise.
There's no voice singing the role of Jesus.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite surprising.
She does say, Maria Magdalena, at one point, she talks for him and she says, "You cannot touch me."
Yes, right.
You can't approach me. So and Maria Cleofe also, she says once she says his words, "I am thirsty," in the middle of the violas arias with the viola da gamba, which is again something I've never seen, and it feels like I will never see again in his writing. It's like the two lines very empty of the viola line and the bass line, completely inish, like it's very inside emotion.
Very intimate. Is that the same number where the recorders and the flute and the oboe have this very haunting unison?
It's just before.
Yeah, it's at that point.
That's just before.
It's very strange colour.
Yeah.
And when we started rehearsing it, I thought there was something wrong with my oboe because there was the sound of recorder coming from behind me. And actually, one of our wonderful recorder players who come from France to play, explained to me that there are only 2 or 3 points in the whole repertoire where recorder, blockflöte, and flute play together.
Absolutely.
And it does create an amazing sound. But I wanted to ask, does that mean then that everyone was able to play all different instruments and they chopped and changed in those days?
Yeah. That's for sure, because so the numbers of players was extremely big for this piece. He talks about 18 violins, which is something you don't do. The number of double basses would have been bigger than the cello if we follow some of the records, which are not that, clear, really. And then probably the viola players, they always don't play when the recorder plays. So probably it could have been some of them.
Recorder playing viola players.
Yeah.
There's a thought.
Yeah.
Should try it. When you work with period instrument orchestras, do they do that? Do they change instruments?
Some people.
A lot of the wind players, I suppose, would change.
Definitely for the recorder and like cornet and recorder, oboe and recorder, but not all of them. Flute, recorder, more scarcely, I would say, not oboe and traverso. No, it's really normally too.
It's interesting. We were in New York recently, and I was talking to some people that work in the pits of the Broadway shows, and they said nowadays you can't just be an oboist or a bassoonist in a show. You have to be able to play clarinet, bassoon, recorder, various things. It's just called reed 1 or reed 2. and
Oh
it
my
looks
God.
like we're going back to those days. I don't know.
Well, definitely when you look into the Venetian writing for the operas, the very early operas, so like Monteverdi, Cavalli, the economy of it would not allow for the wind players to be that many. So according to the piece, you would need cornetto, and then the next one you would need recorder, and you hardly would mix them.
Right.
So quite often today, possibly for this kind of music, I would use people who could play both.
Okay.
And sometimes, if there is luxury, I then would have 3 or 4
Well,
players.
I'll finish off with a little secret. Daniele Damiano, our bassoonist tonight, he plays mean trumpet.
Okay.
So he could actually duffel up on that as well.
That's good.
That would be a thought. Emmanuelle, thank you so much.
No,
we could talk for
thank
another
you.
hour, I'm sure, or even longer, but we have to stop there.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.